So welcome to this week's episode for Chickens and Chatter, and I'd like to welcome Deb Mclean, and today we are going to talk about Deb's hatching experience. Hi, Deb, and welcome.
Thank you so much.
So, what got you started with chickens in the first place?
You know, I've always wanted chickens, and we've gone through every other animal possible. My daughter, and I think 21, was like, let's get, I don't know, she said something, a weird animal. I'm like, nope, let's get chickens. And so we got chickens. It's COVID chickens, and I'm in love with them.
And so you've just started recently hatching your own eggs. So tell us about your first hatching experience.
Well, thank you to you, because prior to this experience, I had been buying them at either the local feed stores, and I did some mail order as well. But in all last fall, I had one broody hen that I could not break her broodiness, and she's my favorite. So that's how I met Tammy, because she was so generous enough to give me some fertilized eggs in January, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And I did the impossible. Actually, Bruin was sitting out in the coop on fake eggs, and I got an incubator, put the eggs in that Tammy gave me, and then I believe the end of January they hatched, and we got 4 of them, and then that was it. And then I loved the experience. Bruin raised them. She did great, and then she got broody again. And now that we have a rooster from one of the eggs you gave me, we put our own eggs under, and we just hatched 3 weeks ago 6 eggs.
Wow.
And we just integrated them yesterday, and it's just such a great experience watching her and seeing them all interact.
So tell me about, so you hatched them in the incubator, and then the picture that we have on the slide is that was your first group, right?
Yep, that was my first group. Yep. So they were named 1, 2, 3, and 4. So number 3, that's her name, is number 3, because she was the first to hatch, and we just kept it. But yeah, we got lucky because all 4 that were actually viable did hatch. But I did have some hard, the humidity, and you were very helpful with that. That is the hard part, keeping the humidity right. I felt like it was a little easier in the winter for some reason than the second time I just did it. But we can go into that later on. But yeah, so it was a great experience. Right after they hatched, I think it was within 6 hours, I put them all, except for one that was a little struggling. So I put them all under her at night, right at dusk. And she was funny. She kind of was like took the eggs out and slid them under. She was like, wait, what's going on? And then she just took right to them. And it was fabulous. And on the coop behind me, I converted, there's an egg box on the side. I actually put a little ramp up there, and I had a plate heater in there for her. So she stayed very warm. It's insulated, so, warm-ish. But she kept them warm all winter, and they've done great.
Yeah. So how did she react? What did she do when you first put them under her?
I can only equate it to like a mom, like you're pregnant, and all of a sudden you have a toddler given to you. You're like, whoa. I mean, it was that kind of like, oh, what's this? And she kind of not even pecked at it, but just like, what's going on? And then she just took them right under her wings, literally. And it was fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah. So what, let's see, so are there anything that you would recommend for someone? So say you had a broody hen and you hatched the eggs yourself, and, and then you brought them out like you did. Are there any tips or anything that special that you did or that you would recommend?
Yeah. So what I did is I actually had, the white Easter eggs you can get for Easter time. I got white ones, and I actually filled them up with hot glue gun. So that seemed to, it gave it weight, because when they're empty, they just flip. It gave it weight, and also when she sat on it, it stayed warm. So I felt like it kind of mimicked the real eggs for her. But then I did have, because then all the other moms come and lay eggs underneath her as well. So I did I kept some of the real eggs as well, but I marked them with a big X, so I knew, okay, we didn't have a rooster at that point anyway. So just so I know which ones were ones that could be taken in. So that's one of the big things. You got to mark these eggs, because all these other girls come and they lay underneath her, and then all of a sudden you have 5 eggs instead of 2, and you're like, I don't know which is which. So definitely mark them.
I have. So I knew that very, very well. So So, and then how, at what age did you let her with the chicks go back out in the general population?
Yeah, general population recall. It was about the same time, about 3 weeks. I was just looking to see, and it's funny because she gets to the point where I have them integrated where they can see, there's fencing, and so the other chickens can see them, so she doesn't lose her dominance. She's one of the dominant ones, and also I felt like the intrigue of the babies kind of dissipated. Um, but yeah, so I kind of just followed her, and she was really getting anxious, and this time as well. And so I just did it slow. This time it was harder in the winter because I couldn't free range my girls. But so what I did is yesterday I spent the whole day out. I free ranged most of them. Let the mom and baby, she got to get free run of the coop. I put her in the coop a couple times, the whole coop, but then there was a ruckus out here because they all wanted to get in. So they were distracted, and then slowly I let one hen in at a time, the ones that I knew were going to be okay, and getting up to the ones that were more questionable, the newer ones. So I felt like I had a good foundation there. And it probably took about 3-4 hours, and I was out here just messing around doing stuff. But it also helps that I know Bruin, and there were some scuffles. There were definitely some scuffles, and I intervened a couple times because they were getting really it was getting really brutal, but they worked it out. So thankfully.
So what does she do in protecting the babies?
Yeah, so it's funny because prior to integrating them, I had a white fence that was here so they could see through it. So, but Bruin would be up on the inside, and specifically one of the girls was up, kind of checking the babies out, and Bruin would puff up, and most of the other girls would go away. This one wouldn't. She was just kind of hanging out. So I'm like, she's young. She's one of the last generations. So I think Bruin was just on edge knowing that one. And then I had this other one, Mo, which was a little more interested, and she's trying to be the leader. So I knew there was going to be a scuffle between her and Mo. But yeah, so it was interesting watching her though. She would, whenever anybody came to the outside of the fence, she would just be like, get away, make a noise and get away. So,
Wow.
and then once out, nobody's attacked them. But what it is like, say if I throw treats or they find food, if anybody gets too close to the babies, she goes right after them. So they give her a wide berth. She just did it. But she's the one who went over to them. But they give her a wide berth. And I think it's just, she's just saying, don't mess with me. Don't mess with my babies.
Yeah.
So they respect her.
That's funny. Now, when did the last generation of babies, the ones you hatched in January, when did they start moving away from her?
You know what? I showed you pictures. They were under her and they were almost full size. I mean, they had free run, but she kept sleeping with them in the roosting box. And then they did move up, but they were really attached to her, and I was surprised at how long she tolerated them. I don't know if it was cold. They kept each other warm. So it'll be interesting to see with this generation if she's more experienced, how it changes. What's your experience?
Yeah, I haven't. This is the first hen raised baby that I have, and I only have one. So, and Mama hen she's not as protective. So, she will protect the baby, but she'll also just walk away. And then all of a sudden she realizes like she's left her baby behind and turns around and comes running back. But so, she has been out with some of the others a little bit, but I have a lot of young ones in there. So, and the young ones are, I just don't, I don't quite trust them yet. So
yeah,
I have them like yours, where they can see each other and integrate. And I'm going to wait until they're probably like close to what you did when the baby's about 3 weeks old, then I will. But yeah, I don't think Mama quite knows what to do. She's, and she hatched. So I just let her, she was broody, and I couldn't break her either. And I said, fine. Okay. I gave her 4 eggs. She broke one. And then she threw it out of the nest, and it was like in the middle of the coop. And like you, everybody was laying in that nest. She'd get a break and everybody's sitting on her eggs. And then, so we were down to 2, and then one, she somehow rolled underneath the nest pad. So when I found it, it was cold, and I lifted under her, but this one hatched, and then she really had no interest in it, and because that egg had gotten as cold as it was, I
Oh yeah.
there there wasn't a viable chick. So we
Yeah.
ended up with one, which I didn't even think we'd get one. So um,
Yeah.
so it's for us too. It's a learning. I mean, I've hatched tons in the incubator. I have never had a hen raised chick before, but
Right. Yeah, no, it's different. And you'll find too, I'm curious to find, I find that the ones that she's raised are so much bigger and sturdier at 3 weeks
yeah,
than the ones that I've raised inside. I don't know if it's just because they're outside. It's just the yeah.
I've noticed that even at a week old. I mean, it's if it's eating like the her
Yeah.
mealworms on the ground. It's
Yeah.
running everywhere. I mean, it was doing that at a day old, and
Yes.
it didn't. My young ones would sit under the heat plate like for like the first 2 or 3 days,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and they'd come out, eat, and then run back. But now this one,
Yeah.
I mean, it's running everywhere. It climbs up, it roosts on a little stick that's in there. I mean, it's running everywhere, and it's only 3 days old, so
Yeah.
it's completely different. And I mean, she will get under her mommy if she gets, it's been warm, so I mean, there's not
Yeah.
really a need to, but but still, I mean, rarely just sleeps under mommy at night. But other than
Yeah.
that, I mean, it's just running everywhere amok, and
Yeah. I think we're lucky with the warmer weather too, because I know they say the heating, you have to keep it at 90, go down to 80. And I
yeah,
feel like today it might be 80 or whatever, but I feel like they don't require that same heat when you got mom because they go under her.
yeah,
And in the summertime, it was not optimal when I did it in February.
no,
I mean, I was worried about them. I kept a close eye on them. So she did actually probably keep them in the roosting area more than
yeah.
this time. But she kept them warm though. I was worried I was gonna have to pull them in, but she kept them good.
Now, did
Yeah.
you find that did she sit on the babies a lot more in the winter than she did?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny she did because now I think it's just so warm. I've got fans going at night and they've got good cross breeze. I've got a lot of windows, but they'll go under her. Last night they're under her, but their faces are usually out. And then when I look at the cameras, you can see at night they just kind of slowly go away, because they're getting hot.
Yeah,
But they definitely stay. But it's funny, they wander away more than I expected. Like they'll even here there'll be one over there and there, and I don't know if they have fear, they have confidence in mom, but they just they're very independent.
yeah. That I've noticed that about mine too. And then once in a while, it'll look around, or mom calls it like when she finds food or when she's
Yes.
scratching, and then all of a sudden it comes running. And I
Yeah.
mean, I can imagine. Now, how many do you have of the babies?
6.
6.
Yeah, and yeah, for her to keep track of them, but she does seem to kind of know. Like, it's funny because I'll see one baby that got left behind in the coop, and then she comes back, and she just seems to know because then she'll come back, say her noise, and they'll follow her. So somehow she knows. Oh, and the one thing I should mention too, I'll show you is that I was told this trick. I don't know if you could see the babies. I have that fence, and it's propped up just high enough so the babies, if they want protection from big girls, can just jump under there.
Oh, okay.
So I've done that a couple of times. There's one in the corner as well. I've done that around here, and then they've got this cinder block I'm sitting on, but there's a square in it. So they've got lots of areas to be able to, if they're getting chased, to go get safety. And somebody had told me that with the last group, and I thought that eased my anxiety, if anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is a real good idea. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have like a pallet that is set up that the girls can't get
Perfect.
through, but it's up against the side. And I do that even when I'm integrating even the hens, because
Oh,
if they a bigger one could still in some places get in those spots, but at least it can get away and
get away. Yeah.
and hide, because I've had some issues
Oh,
with
yeah.
with that, with because there's so many that I've integrated that and they're all different ages. I'm done with that for a while because I have 58 chickens, so that was
I didn't realize so many. Wow.
my chicks, and then my hens and different age groups, and I sent 24 of them down to my sister, so I mean that cut my flock like in half. But and she got them from a year old all the way down to a week old, so
That's cool.
she had a completely mixed flock too.
She's lucky. She's very lucky.
So now with the second group of eggs that you hatched, now did you hatch them also in the incubator, or did you let her sit on them?
I did. I actually first put them under her, but then I got nervous because the other girls, like you said, they're coming and laying. I'm like, they're going to be cracking these. And she gets, I mean, she was broody the first time for literally 6 months, and I was worried about her health.
Yeah.
So when she got broody this time, and I've tried everything, pulling her out, putting an ice pack under her and everything, and she just, so I wanted to make sure that we had eggs that were hatching in 30 days because of the heat and everything. I didn't want her to health to go down. So I just, after a day or two, I put them up at the incubator. I'm like, I don't want to mess with this. And
Yeah.
I debated about putting them under her when they're ready to hatch, but then I wasn't sure about the humidity. And I always feel like you have to help some because the first one I had to help a couple. So I just like to have to control it. I'm a control freak.
Yeah.
So.
And so you said it was harder, the humidity was harder to control.
Yeah, and I think you would mention that it is hard in the summer. I felt like it was definitely harder. You get and I try not to interfere, but when they start to peep, and I read it's amazing when you read about it that they actually breathe when you see those veins. That's how they're getting oxygen from the outside through those veins. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so when like say you have one that's not zipping around right, so the first one you have to start to peel it away. But if you get any blood, see any vessels, you have to stop because you got to make sure it's just right. But then you got the inner membrane, and that if you don't have the right humidity, it gets almost shrink wrapped, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard about. And then, but you don't want to interfere. But if you don't help out, they could suffocate. So each time, thankfully, I've interfered just perfectly that they didn't die, but they lived. Because I know, like, if you interfere, you could kill them. But my way of looking at it's to the point where I know they're not going to make it on their own anyway. I'm like, I'd rather interfere and try to help and just try to do a little bit at a time. And then the one that this time too, just stayed overnight in the incubator by itself. And I put it with mom the next day because she just was a little weaker. Yeah. So, and then she was lonely. She was missing her friend. So I put like toys, and the second one too, you put in toys or something to give them some company. Or it's cool in the incubator. They tend to want to go lay on each other, which is so cool. But I ended up taking mine out. My incubator is very small. It says it fits 12 eggs. There's no way. I think 6 was the max, but this time, and that's probably why my humidity got messed up too a little bit, because once one would fully hatch, I would try to get them out as soon as, because there's just not enough room if they're all in there hatching and they're stepping on each other. So, you can do it with a smaller one, but, this one was $70. But I think it depends how much money you want to put into it and how often you're going to do it. I find this one looks fine for my little backyard thing, but for somebody like you who's doing more breeding, whatever, you might want a better one.
Yeah, I actually have 4.
Okay, yeah.
I have 4 incubators. So yeah, I have a main one that holds about 30 eggs.
Oh wow.
And that's what I use. That's what I usually use. And then when they go into lockdown, I break them apart into the smaller ones. And sometimes also so I can tell what eggs what, because once they hatch, forget it. You don't know who's my mama. So,
and that's one of the reasons too, because I know who the moms are of most of these eggs, but there's a couple, the brown ones I wasn't paying attention, so I didn't write down, so that'll be a mystery. But I do try to I banded the ones that I knew who the mom was, because it's interesting and they change so quickly. But that's one of the good things about, I guess, taking them out. I could band them right away, and then you have to keep track of those bands because they grow quick.
Oh yeah, because that's I know in the summer. So last year I did hatch a lot of eggs during the summer, and I had to put them in an air conditioned room because I could not get the humidity first up low enough to where I wanted it. And then it was easy to get it high because I mean outside it's like 80%. So that's where I ran into problems. But I'll be honest, through all of this crazy heat, which what it's been like the past few weeks, that her egg had like no problems. And I mean, some of the egg problem was my fault too, because I didn't have them marked correctly in the beginning. And when I marked them, I didn't mark them dark enough. And then
learning experience.
and I really didn't want any more chicks. I really didn't. But she was again going like a prolonged, I couldn't break her broodiness. And I said, well, you know what? I want to try this experience because I've never done it before. And,
Yeah.
that's like, and that's what happened. But, so, I mean, some of the eggs I do think were actually my fault and, just not planning it because I
Yeah.
really didn't want to do this. So, one was a surprise. But
I
yeah,
think we do the best we can with what we have on hand. So that's all you can ask for.
it's very interesting how they can monitor and maintain humidity
Yeah.
with, where the struggle we go through in the house with the incubator to make sure that humidity stays the same. And then, you just have a hen sitting on an egg and, what and I'm curious because I'm, but how that humidity remains the constant that, that it,
That's yeah, that's one of the reasons why I also put them inside because I was just like, that's another variable I don't understand fully. And
yeah. Are you,
yeah, yeah.
are you going to try hatching under her?
I think so. I hope I hope she doesn't get broody for a while, but I think next time I will, unless it's the middle of the winter, I don't want to do that again. But I will. I'm hoping next spring I'll let her hatch and see what happens.
Yeah.
But then part of me feels like I should have a couple in the incubator because God forbid they all don't work out. That's what I was going to do this time. Leave a couple in the incubator and put a couple under her. But then I'm like, I didn't want to risk none of them. So I
Yeah.
might do a mixture just because for her health reasons, for her to go broody for such an extended time if none of them hatch. So I might do a mix until I get confident. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a good idea. And you could really mark the ones that were inside, and see if there is a difference too from
Yeah.
whether,
Oh, yeah.
from the hen incubated
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, that's a good
eggs.
idea. I'll let you know.
Yeah, that sounds good. Um, so you do, so are there any other, I don't know, any other tips that you have as far
Um,
as, how you did things, what you recommend or challenges that maybe you'd say like,
um,
tried this and it didn't work and don't do it?
you know what? It's funny because right now it's so cute. I don't think it's see. She's got them all. I don't think it's seen. She's got them all under her right there. Just you know what? I don't think it's zoom in. See, she's got them right there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think the gosh, don't do it in the winter like I did. But no, I think everything. The hardest challenge for me is now these babies are out. You can't give them the food, the layer food anymore. So getting calcium for the big girls. But I actually keep a whole bunch of shells, and I give them their own shells back. And I
Yeah.
have the oysters as well, the oyster shells, yeah, shells. But I give them their egg shells too. No, I mean, I'm trying to think. The only thing, so this time she brought them up to the roost last night, and they were all falling off. So I took some boards and just to give her a platform because I'm like, they're not going to stay up here, honey. So I think you just gotta watch them and just see if she's having trouble with something, and that's what I tried to do. Watch her and see what she's struggling with, and if I can help her at all. But
How
I
did
don't
she
know unless
from the
yeah.
roost bar? How did she get them up there?
They hop, well, they go up on the little ladder, and then they just hopped right up. These girls. Oh, it was funny because I had that white fence, and then netting over, and one of the babies almost went over. She went flying from one of the stumps, and thank God they're so these little guys, they can go.
Wow. Now,
So
do you feed them the starter feed or what, or the grower? Yeah.
yeah, they got that. Yeah, now they're on the crumble them because they seem to be handling that. So I'm gonna I've got the layer food still in the higher up ones because they're still too small to get to the ones where the big girls go. So I'm gonna keep that layer until they get big enough, and they've got see, but all the girls are eating their food over there.
Well,
I don't know why they love that food better. Yeah. So that's really it. But other than that, I mean, it's just they've been doing this morning. I watched on the camera. She got down off the roost. She went and took off. She left all the babies. But it was funny. They were standing there, and one of the other girls was standing there, and they were like looking at each other. And she came back, and the other one left, and she came back and got him like 3 minutes later. But
oh,
they were like, "Hello."
that is so funny.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's been a really good experience, though.
Oh yeah, I love them. They're just so fun to watch and interacting, and yeah.
And how do you feel having a rooster now? So you can have
I
eggs.
Yeah, I love him. I love my rooster. I never thought I'd want a rooster, but I think maybe because I hatched him, and once I catch him, he's a snuggle bug, and he doesn't crow that much, um, and I feel like he has kept down the cattiness of the girls. I mean, my original flock, we had leaders, and I've lost a couple of them, so they were the leaders. So there was a kind of unrest for a while. But I feel like he's brought a lot of stability. I haven't felt there's a lot of turmoil that there usually is, because I feel like there usually is a power struggle
Yeah.
between them, and it's funny because he was here as a baby just a couple months ago, and they've accepted him, and he slowly moved his way over on the roosting bars. He's now got the prime spot, and he's snuggled up with the girls, so they've accepted him.
And I
Yeah,
should. Yeah. So these were your first
yeah,
chicks, right? Yep.
yep. I had two roosters and two girls. I gave the other rooster away. I forget. Oh, I think that's number four. That's number
That
four.
was number 4.
And there she is. Yep, putting them. She could put them under her. They were bigger there though, and she had, four of them. Because
Yeah.
those are big. I get the 4 by. That's a big roosting bar too. But yeah, these babies. I think these guys were much older. Yeah, yeah. And that's Sprinkles, I believe. Yep. And
Okay.
that's her with them. And they were at that size, still trying to get under her.
And they're
And that's my rooster. I love him.
the rooster. Yeah, he's beautiful.
Snoop.
I,
We call him Snoop.
yeah. So that's so exciting. So um I think that we pretty much have covered everything. I don't know. Is there anything that you want to
Yeah.
add?
I'm trying to think. You know what? No. I have mealworms, which I think is great to give them. If you can get mealworms, I gave the babies. I don't know if that's why they're bigger too, but they ate the mealworms right away up. Other than that, I mean, I've really had no problems with them health wise, knock on wood. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining us, and I
Thank
look
you.
forward to more. I especially I want to hear when you let Bruin, not this year, but next year, let her hatch some of her own, and you'll really be able to compare, and we can talk more about that. But
Sounds good.
so
Thank you
thank you
so much.
so much.
Okay, I'll talk to you later.